So we're on Ayin Vov. I'm an Aleph right at the very top. Long daf today. So the Mishnah says, Behema is an animal, Shenechtecha Ragleha, its leg was cut off. In Arkabo Lamata, from the knee and down, Kshera, it is kosher. In Arkabo Lamala, from the knee and up, it is Pasula, it is a treifa, you can't eat it. Chen Shenito Thomas Agidim. And so too, when it took the intersection or the merging, I don't know exactly what Thomas. In modern Hebrew, Thomas is an intersection, but it doesn't necessarily mean intersection. It means a cluster or so of blood vessels. Nishbar ha'etzem, if the bone is broken, im rova basar kain, if the majority of the flesh around the bone is still there, then shchitas ovantaraso, then the slaughter makes it not an avela. Still going to be a treifa, but at least it's not an avela. In love, but if not, if the majority of the flesh is sort of falling away from the bone, ain't shchitas ovantaraso, then slaughtering it does not purify it. It will be considered an avela, even if you slaughter it. So Amar Rabbi Yehudah Amar Rav. Yehudah says name of Rav, Amar Rabbi Mechia, name of Rabbi Mechia. Lamata, it says below is kosher. Lamata min arkuba is below the knee. Lamala, and above the mala min arkuba is above the knee. The ezer kuba, which knee are we talking about? Now humans have only one knee, but cows have two knees. The way a cow's foot is made, there's a foot on the ground, and there's sort of a bone up here, then there's a knee, then there's another bone. There's another knee, and then you have the upper part of the leg. So there's two knees in a cow, and so I think same thing with a sheep or goat. So which knee are we talking about? The knee that's sold together with the head. It's standard that when you buy a head, then you throw in the leg free, and that's up to the bottom knee. So when you say which knee are we talking about, we're saying the knee joint that gets sold with the head. Talking about the bottom knee. So that was a custom. You buy the head, you get the leg joint in a package deal. It's the kneecap that is visible in a camel, which is the upper one. Look at a camel. Camels have only one visible kneecap, and that's the upper kneecap. And so it's the one that you can tell on a camel. Amar lay Ula le Rabbi Yehudah. Ula says Rabbi Yehudah, B'shlomo l'didi, according to me, now I say it's a lower kneecap. Demina connected, so the upper kneecap, Demina connected with Gamal Nikar, that I say it's the one that you recognize as a camel. Haynu diktani, this is what I taught, V'chein shenit l'l tzomos l'gidim. Also, if you took the intersection of the blood vessels, Eladidicha, according to you, my v'chein shenit l'l tzomos l'gidim, what does it mean also if you took out the blood vessels? Meaning,
yeah, they translate as sinews.
Sinews.
Junction of sinews.
Anything above the knee is a treifa. Right above the knee is where the tzomos l'gidim is. So it's saying the same thing. According to me, it's fine. There's two things. If you cut it above the knee, it's fine. It's a problem above the top knee. If you cut it above the bottom knee, exactly at the tzomos, you're cutting him at the tzomos l'gidim, that's going to be a problem as well, even if it's lower. But it's a problem if you take it at the tzomos l'gidim. But according to you, it's above the lower knee and at the tzomos l'gidim. Those are both the same thing. In which case, why is it teaching two separate things? What does it mean also it took the tzomos l'gidim? It's the same thing. So Amar he said to him, Rechuva below tzomos l'gidim. Take the knee without the bundle of nerves or sinews. Tzomos l'gidim below Rechuva. And if you take the bundle of sinews without the knee, those are both treifa. Meaning they're right next to each other, but you could take one without the other. You could sort of leave one, take the knee out and leave the flesh, take the flesh and leave the knee. Either one is a problem. It says cut off. You can't cut off the tzomos l'gidim without taking off the knee. Ishtik. got quiet. Didn't have an answer ready. Vasanovik, after he left, Amr said, my time or lo Amr, why didn't I tell him? Lamata, when it says Lamata below, Lamata Minekuva is below the knee. Lamala, what does it mean above the knee, is Lamala again above the cluster of sinews. So that's two separate things. There's above the knee, meaning above the cluster, and there's taking the cluster itself. Hadar, and they said, below Amr, I skipped one. Yeah, no, that's right. They went back and said, I shouldn't, it's good I didn't tell him. If I told him, it says cut off. Halchanami, so too in Arkuva Lamala Katani says the kneecap and above, then it's taught. So what we know, what was my answer? What was my answer? He asked me a question. I said that's one or the other. I said it's either taking the knee or it's almost again, or taking this cluster. And he asked me back, but it says cut off. Cut off implies that it's cut all the way off. So you can't take the cluster of the sinews without the kneecap and call it cut off. So I should have said back to him, but it says above the knee. No, he said back, even on this other answer, I would have told. Sorry, it's the other way. Even if I told him the second answer, that says above the knee, I mean above. I try to say now, above the knee means above the Tzomas Gidin, but he'll tell you back, it says above the knee, it doesn't say above the Tzomas Gidin. So how can I try to answer him and say above the knee means above the cluster, when it doesn't say above the cluster, it says above the knee? So he would have responded that way. He would have, even if I said this answer, he would have rejected it as well. Rav Papa Masnihachi. Rav Papa's version of discussion is like this. Amr, so it was like the following. Amr Rabbi Yehudah, Amr Rav, Amr Rabbi Yehudah, Yehudah said name Rav, said name Rabbi Lamata, when it says below, Lamata Benekuba is below the knee. Umi Tzomas Gidin, and also below the cluster. Lamala, above means Lamala. And Akuba, it means above the knee, Umi Tzomas Gidin, above the cluster. And and similarly, if you took out, so too, if you took out the cluster. Rakuba Gufa, and we're explaining what is the time of the knee itself, Ula is like Ula said. The Ula is the top knee. So the I'm saying the knee is the top knee. Tzomas Gidin is the bottom. Somewhere in between the bottom knee and the upper knee. So Tzomas Gidin is part of the lower, is related to lower knee, but when it's talking about when it says the knee itself, it's some of the upper knee. So Omer Rabbi Yehudah asked a question. Hold on a second. So you're saying you cut it at the Tzomas Gidin, it's a problem, but if you cut it above that, it's okay. Is there something to ilu madli? If you go a little bit lower, to go higher, it would live. A matri pasikle amesa, but if you cut it a little bit lower, it'll die. Meaning, if you cut it higher and you're moving more of it, is better than if you move less. Saying that Tzomas Gidin is a problem, but anything below the top knee is okay, and Tzomas Gidin is below the top knee. So how can it be? You cut it at the Tzomas Gidin, it dies. Cut it above that, it's okay. Amar Rav Ashi. Rashi says, Trefas kamadamis, you're trying to compare different trefas, die to each other. We said this several times. Ein omer trefas zu damazu. We don't say with wound injuries, these are similar to each other. Shechotu mikhan mamesi, we cut it here, it dies. We cut it mikhan chai, v'chai, cut it here, it lives. So, it just, the way biology works is there's no kavachomers in biology. This part is going to be, this part is dangerous and this part's not. Cut a little bit higher, it might be better.
That's
why. Has to do with where you cut it.
Yeah.
saying someone cuts their someone cuts the wrist, they could bleed to death.
Yeah.
Cut the elbow, it might not be as bad. Maybe the blood vessel is not, I don't know. I know.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. No, just first glance, it's
right. But that's what the Gemara said. At first glance, it didn't make sense. And no, there are certain spots that are more dangerous than others. The alien Thomas again. What exactly is it? Thomas again. Where is it? Rava Amar Rav Ashi. Rav is the name Rashi. The Agmara Ulavar, from the Agmara and out, which is fairly high up on this lower leg bone. Rabba Bar Rav Huna Amar Rav Ashi. The Agmara Lagav, from the Agmara and on the inside, which is a little bit closer in. It's not as high up. Rava Bere de Rava Bar Rav Huna Amar Ravasi. He says in Ravasi, to Ilui Arkuma, that is above the Arkuma. Which is there's some kind of small bone that connects the different segments of the leg, and so anything that's there on that small bone or above that, that's called Thomas Gedim. So I think that's somewhere between the other two, but I'm not sure. Yosef Ahume Rabbanan, that rabbi sat, Kamei de Rababa, in front of Rabba, Yosef Akamar and said, Arkuma Gufa, it's at the Arkuma itself, right at that bone, that little bone. Amalei Rabbi Abba, lo tzitzisu lei, don't listen to him. Hachi Amar Rabbi Yehudah, this is what Yehudah says, Hechi depari tavchi, the place where the butchers open it up, behind the Rabba Berei Rabba Bar Rav Huna Amar Rav Asi. That's the same thing as Rabba Bar Rav Huna said in Rasi Amar Rav Yehudah said. That's right. So that's that opinion that's out the Akuma itself. Amar Rav Yehudah Amar Shmuel. Yehudah says the name of Shmuel. Tzomos Gedim. Shamru. This Tzomos Gedim they talked about. Makom Shegidim Tzomzin. It's a place where the Gedim are shrivel up. I guess if you cut it there, then the Gedim they will. So it means So they're bundled, not sure. They're bundled. Place where the Gedim are bundled. The odd comment, how far up? One of the rabbis, his name was Yaakov, said, Kevina Bei Rav Yehudah. When I was learning by Rav Yehudah, Amar told us, Shamu Mani, listen from me, Milsa and thing, Gav Rabba Shmieli, that I heard from a great rabbi. Umanu, and who is that great rabbi? Shmuel. Shmuel said, Somas Gedim Amru. Somas Gedim that they talked about is Makom Gedim Somsin Bo, place where the Gedim are bundled up together. Makom Shitsomsim, and place they're bundled, Ad Makom Shmispashtin, place where they spread out. Lakama, and how far is that? How far up is that? Amar Bai, Arba Bati, 4 fingers. The Torah on a cow, on a bull. Badakamai, on a small animal, how far is it? Maraye Bliti. That means up to the point where they're absorbed in the flesh. So the place where you can still see them, up to the spot where they move into the flesh of the animal. If the Thomas Gedim was absorbed, was inside the flesh, raw by the flesh, low by the Thomas Gedim. It is not called Thomas Gedim. Ashini, but if they're hard, then how it's Thomas Gedim? That's the Thomas Gedim. Chivri, if they're white, have Thomas Gedim. That's the Thomas Gedim. Lo chivri, the change color, not white. Lo have Thomas Gedim. It's not the Thomas Gedim. Amar Mar Bar Rav Ashi Amar Rav Ashi says, cave into zigi, if they're clear, even if they're not white, it's still okay. It's still the Thomas again. Amar Bebar, Nishmeder Rav Amir says the name of Rav Zvid, Klasa Chuti Havu. There are 3 string, so to speak, at the Tzomas Gedim. Chad alima, one is strong, v'trei ketini, and two are small. Ifsik alimi, if the big one is cut, az derov binyan, then he lost the majority of the flow. Is lost because the big one is bigger than the other two put together. If Sikatani, the small ones are cut, as the Rav Minyan, the majority of the number, there's 3 vessels and 2 of them are cut, so it's also changed because you have most of it. Mara Ravashi Masni Lakula, Ravashi says the same thing, but leniently. If Sikalimi, if the big one is cut, Haika Rav Minyan, you still have most of the blood vessels to make it kosher. If Sakatini, if the small ones are cut, Haika Rav Minyan, you still have a majority of the size, because the big one's smaller than the other two. If the big one's bigger than the smaller two, I mean. So whatever you lose, unless you lose all 3, either have a majority or the majority one way or another. Majority of the vessels or majority of the size. For Ophos, when it comes to birds, there's 16 vessels. And if even one of them is cut, it is a treifa. So Amar Mar Bar Ravashi said, Havak imnik made Abba, I stand in front of my father. If I see the Kame Ofa in front of a bird, Ubadak, he checked, V'ashkach Be Chamisar Chave. There's only 15 vessels here. The answer is no. Chad Havasheni. Chad. There's one that was different from all the other ones. Nafze, he threshed it. What? He split it. But I don't know the action. He beat it. It was 2 separate ones. Rabbi Yehudah Amar Rav, here's the name Rav. Tzomas Laginim Shamru Baruba. And they said that the Tzomas Laginim is a problem. It means the majority of it. My Ruba, what is the majority of it? Rov Achaman, the majority of one of them. Community made a Shmuel, they said in front of Shmuel, Amar Li, Mikni says, hold on a second, close to Havu. If there's 3, only one is cut. The Gomri, even completely, Ayika Trey, is still 2. So why is that a problem? No, time Ayika Trey. The reasoning that's kosher because there are 2 left. Aleka Trey, low. But if it's not 2, then it is a problem. Please, Rabbanai, he's arguing to Rabbanai, to Amr Rabbanai, because Rabbanai said, Amr Shmuel name Shmuel, Thomas Gideon, when it comes to this cluster, Filo Nishtarba Ella Sarville. Sure, even if the only left is a builder's plumb line, it is kosher, even if you use everything, but that little bit is enough to make it kosher. Viki the Amri, those that say, my Ruba, what does it mean, majority of it? Rov Kolach V'yach, majority of each one. That the majority of each one is cut, each one that has a majority cut is considered it's gone. So if you cut the majority of each of these threads, even if you didn't cut the majority of the threads, that is enough to be a problem. Or rather, if you cut the majority of each one is considered to have been cut, and therefore it's a problem. That makes more sense. Yeah? So it's Rov Galach, the majority of each and every one. Can read the Gemara Shmuel. I said in front of Shmuel, Amalei said to me, Michti, hold on a second, Tlosa Havu. You're 3. Hayika Tlosa, the Kol Chad V'chad. You have a third of each one. If you cut the majority of each thread, there's still a third of each one. That's enough. Misayeh Le Rabbanai. This supports Rabbanai, the Amar Rabbanai. Rabbanai said, Amar Shmuel, and Shmuel, so Ginish Amru. And so it's getting a feeling even if it's just a little thread of the plumb line, it is good enough.
This whole discussion on where to cut it, what is the purpose?
If you cut it at the Tzomas again, then it's puzzle. The question is, what does it mean to cut the Tzomas again? Cut the whole Tzomas again, part of it, all these different opinions.
I mean, what is what is the point of cutting these things?
Why the person cut it? I have no idea why they cut it. Doesn't matter.
Okay, so there's no purpose for the.
Just saying, we're trying to figure out if it would get cut. It accidentally stuck its foot.
Just ifs and ands.
It tried to climb through a glass window and again, cutting itself and chopping off its leg. Whatever,
Injured and stuff.
Right. Now, next part of the mission says, Nishbar Etzem, the bone got broken. Amar Rav says, L'mal min hakuv, above the knee, Imrov basar kayim zev zemuter. If the majority of the flesh is there, then both of these cases are permitted. What does it mean both cases? It means the leg and the animal. So if the leg broke, but most of the flesh is there, even above the knee, then the animal and the leg are both permitted. Same love, but if there's no flesh above, there's not enough flesh. There's not enough flesh all around it. Then both the leg and the animal are aser. But mativ nekuv, it's below the knee. Imrav basar kayim, if the most of the flesh is there, zev mutter, then everything is mutter. Imlav, but if not, aver aser, the limb is aser because it's like it's detached. Hem muteres, but the animal is kosher. If you check the animal, missing the small part of the animal is not a problem. The animal itself is kosher.
These are possible injuries that occurred before you were bringing it to the.
Right. So if the bone broke, tell me the bone breaking. Yeah. So if the bone broke above the knee, that if there's most of the flesh around the bone is kosher, is there, then the animal is kosher and that leg is kosher. If the majority of the flesh is not there, then everything is treif. Below the knee, even if it's broken and the flesh isn't around it, but the animal itself is kosher. The only question is if you can find the only question is what does the flesh help for? Is it to permit the leg? Flesh is there, then permits the leg. If flesh is not there, it doesn't permit the leg. But either way, the animal itself is kosher. If it's not other thigh, aver asa limb is prohibited in behema muteras, and the animal is permitted. So in both places, I skipped. Shmuel says, Bein lamala, bein lamata, whether it's top and the bottom, im rova basar kayim, if the majority of the flesh is there, zev is mutter, they're both permitted, im lav. If not, if the majority of flesh is not there, then aver aser, limb is aser, behemoth materis, and the rest of the animal is kosher. So even the upper leg, let's say the same leniency, that if the majority of flesh and the leg is kosher without the majority of flesh, then the animal itself is kosher. Maskif Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman has a challenge to Shmuel. According to Shmuel, Yomer, let's say, Aver Mimena, Mutal Ba'ashba, Muteris, its leg is in the garbage and you can say the animal is permitted to eat. How can that be? So Amalei Rav Acha Bar Rav Huna, Racha Bar Rav and it was all attached at the time of death. Right? And still you can throw in the garbage and say this part of the animal is garbage, but the rest of the animal is kosher. People are going to get very confused. Amalei Rav Acha Bar Rav Huna Rav Nachman. Rav Huna says to Rav Nachman, Rav, according to Rav Nami, also according to Rav, it says that if it's above the knee, then everything's straight, but if it's below the knee, then only there's these one or two animals, the one or two, what's it called? If it's below the knee, then only the leg is a problem. If it's above the knee, then everything's kosher. Sorry. No. It's above the knee, and majority of flesh is there, it's kosher. It's majority of flesh is not there, then everything's not kosher. below the knee, then the limb is not kosher, but the animal is kosher. So even according to that, you can say the leg is in the garbage and the animal is permitted, just like we asked on Shmuel, who says even above the knee, the leg is in the garbage and the animal is permitted. Asking Rav, which is not as slightly less common in Shmuel than in Rav, you can ask the same question, Rav, how can part of the animal be in the garbage and the rest of the animal is kosher? Amalek said back, this is what I'm trying to say. Even the limb that has life force in it, is put in the garbage, and the rest of the animal is kosher. I mean, yeah, I understand if the bottom half of the leg, which is not so important, is in the garbage and the animal's kosher. But this top half of the leg, is in the garbage, and that's where the life force, the animal's in the top leg. If they would cut that off, it would be treifa. So now you're going to throw in the garbage and say the rest of the animal's kosher. That doesn't make sense. They sent from Tom. Hilchah is a gavase to Rav. Halach is like Rav, that if the leg is broken above the knee, then if the majority of flesh is there, it's kosher. If the majority of flesh is not there, then the whole animal is treif. It's below the knee. Even if you don't have the majority of the flesh, the animal is kosher, just the leg is a problem. That is the conclusion. The limb itself, the limb itself is nevela. So this limb says not kosher. Not only is it not slaughtered, so nevela, slaughtering the animal does not help the leg at all. It is nevela. Or at least it's Abraham and Achai. Masiv Rav Yehudah. Rav Yehudah challenged that. Said, we have a brisa. We're starting in the middle of a brisa. No, it's not good logic. This is the mission we saw earlier. Say, no, if you purified shchita, treifa, of a treifa of wounded animal, osav is if you put it and the limb that's hanging from it as well, the davish gufa, it's part of the body. The tatar is the ubar, are you going to permit the baby, davish eino gufa, that is not part of the body. You see that slaughtering the animal affects the whole body, even this limb that's sticking out. So Amar le Rabba says, Hadur apirche mamacha, why are you going after questions? Osibim Masnisim, why didn't you ask from the Mishnah? Why are you going out and far flung to find a question? You ask the same question in the Mishnah. You don't need a brisa. Ask from the Mishnah, which is Nishchuta behema, if the animal is slaughtered, Hokshur b'demeh, then it's considered prepared with its own blood. Tivri Rabbi Meir. He's a Rabbi Meir. Shimon Omer, Shimon says, Lo Hokshur, it's not considered prepared with its own blood. So why don't you ask from the Mishnah? So Amalei says, Masnisim, when it comes to the Mishnah, you can push aside like we pushed aside a few days ago. We tried to bring a proof to this and we ruled it out. And that is, what does it mean hukshur? It means the meat of it means meat that's loose, right? The Mishnah back then had two cases. You have a limb that's loose and meat that's loose. And it said if you slaughter the animal, then it's considered to be prepared. It's gotten wet. That's talking about the meat that's loose, not about the limb. Meaning, if you have an animal that has flesh that's sticking off it, or you have a limb that's sticking off it. The Mishnah is talking about both cases. That it says when you slaughter it, it's now tameh. That is talking about it's prepared, not tummy. It's prepared. So everything got with blood. That's some of the flesh, but not the limb.
Nevela.
What?
Nevela is something to nevela.
Nevela means it died without being slaughtered.
Okay. Just that.
We were talking about did it touch one of the seven liquids? So it's capable of becoming tummy. Right, so we can't answer the Mishnah because we answer the Mishnah and say the Mishnah is talking about one different case. But from this Bryce, it's pretty clear. Yisalek Reb Zera. Reb Zera came up. Ashkechei. We're going to wait. Ashkechei de Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba. He found Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba. To Yassi, who said in the Ka'amar Lal Hashmait, they're saying over this discussion. Amalei Yishar. He said, yeah, Yashikok, you get it right. And so too, Aryoch and Bavel, which is another name for Shmuel, translated. It's also this actual kingdom Aryoch. But no, it's not Shmuel. In Bavel. Aryoch, Man, Shmuel. Who's Aryoch and Shmuel? Miflik Polik, but he argues on it. You're saying like Rav and Shmuel argued. How can you say it? Shmuel said the same thing as Rav. And so it's Hadar Be Shmuel Lagabe the Rav. Shmuel changed his mind and went back to holding the same as Rav. Well, plenty of time. Tanur Banan, the rabbis taught. Nishbar ha'etzem, if the bone broke, v'yotzi l'chutz, and sticking out, im or ubosar chof and isruba, if flesh and skin cover the majority of this bone that's sticking out, mutter, it's permitted. Im lav aser. Then if it's not sticking out, then it is prohibited. It's not covered, not covered by a majority of its size is covered by flesh and skin, then it's not permitted. Kamari, what is the majority of it? It still has flesh and skin. Kiasa Rav Dimi Amar Rabbi Yochanan. If you said the name of Yochanan, Rov Ovio, the majority of the thickness of the bone. Vimila, there are those who say Rov Kefo, the majority of the circumference of the bone. So Amar Rav Papa, Yochanan Beinin Rov Ovio, Ubeinin Rov Hakefa. You need the majority of its length, basically, and the majority of its volume has to be covered in flesh and bones to count the majority. To be counted to be counted the majority has flesh and bones on it, flesh and skin, then it is still kosher, yeah. Amar Ula, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, or Hayu Gabasar, the skin counts as meat. Amalei Rav Nachman Ula, Rav Nachman Ula, V'lei Mamar, why do you say it in the following way? Or mitzvah of the basar, or it's combined with flesh. Or itself, the skin is not meat, but the skin combines with meat is considered to be an extension of the meat, but it's not in and of itself food. Or basar, because it's taught flesh and skin, put them together. I says, Amar like say like Anan, I said, or basatin, I thought either skin or flesh is enough to make it kosher. Ikta Amar, those say Amar Ula Amar Rabbi Yochanan, those say that Ula said the name of Yochanan, or mitzvah of the basa, or is added on to the meat. So if you have a little bit less than half meat, you put on the onlooker, then I didn't get enough sleep. I keep losing my train of thought.
Burning the candle again.
Yeah, too much else going on.
Yeah.
So Amar Anan or Obasatan, that if you have the majority of the skin covering it or a majority of the meat covering it, that's good enough. You don't need both. Ikidami, those say Amar Ula Amar Yochanan, also the name of Yochanan, or mitzvah of the basar, right? Or combines with flesh. Amar Rav Nachman Ula. So the flesh is the main thing, and as the skin combines with it. Amalei Rav Nachman Ula, Rav Nachman says to Ula the other way, V'leimamar or Marshin the Basar, or completes the Basar, meaning they're both the same thing. Completes the L'chumra.
It says skin may complete the cover.
Right. So why is that L'chumra?
It's composed mostly of flesh.
Right. That's mostly flesh.
So it's not a true combination. It's
right. Right. So, okay. So right. So it means right, like you said, that you can use a little bit of skin, but not a lot. Just add on. It doesn't combine with it. Say that it can that equal shares is fine. It's even if what's it called? Even if it's only if it's a little bit of skin, the finishing around it, that's enough. So he says, so why don't you say it that way? Is this question. Amalei says, Ana Uvdi, I know a story. Tahu bar Gazla, you had this young goose. Tava, what?
That translates to pigeon.
Pigeon, okay. Tahava Bay Rabbi Yitzchak. That is the house of Yitzchak. The ornament served the basar Hava. And it was the skin combined with the flesh to be the majority. Rabbi Yochanan came in front of Rabbi Yochanan. Vakshay, Rabbi Yochanan says kosher. Amarle said to him, Bar goes to come out. You're talking about it, this pigeon? Bar goes with the rachik shiny. And bar goes is very soft. And since it's very soft, that's why the skin counts the same as flesh. With most animals, they wouldn't say that. See, there's another Gemara about it, about pigeons being soft later on. Okay. Hanu Gidim Rachim. These soft sinews just came in the Rabbah. They came from the Rabbah. Amar Rabbah. Rabbah says, "Lamai nichush laha." What are we supposed to worry about it? So what does it mean? It means that in a case when you had majority of the bone was covered, but part of what covered it was soft sinews. What's the problem here? Chada, number one, the Amar Rabbi Yochanan, it says Gidin, Shtov and Hakshos, that vessels that eventually get hard, but right now are soft. Nina Lev Pesach, you can count it as food for the Karm Pesach. Meaning, the rule is, in order to have a Karm Pesach, every person that's counted on it has to yield the kazayas of meat. You sort of divide the animal, and if you have enough animal, so each person has kazayas of meat, then that's okay. If there's too many people, if each person have a kazayas of meat, then that's no good. I'm saying these sinews count as meat, even though they're going to get hard when the animal grows up. But young animal, they're soft. You can count on them for the Karm Pesach. So you see that these sinews are part of the meat. And furthermore, Torah chasa amonosh Yisrael, and the Torah had mercy on the money of Jews, meaning you should be lenient. You don't want to waste money. You don't have to throw in an animal unnecessarily. Amalei Rapapa L'Rava. Rapapa said to Rava, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Reish Lakish argued, V'Surah Derayis, talking about Torah provision. Martin, you said, my lechosh. What are we supposed to be worried about? Meaning, so we don't have the Rav Reish Lakish says Aser for sure, and you're saying that. Well, what are we worried about? We don't have anything to worry about. Ishtuk, he was quiet, did not answer. For my Ishtuk, why is he quiet? For Amar Rava said, Hilchos like Rabbi said to Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. And these three places was like Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. It says no shiny honka here. Different the Hutter be Rabbi Yochanan Lagabe the Rabbi Shimon Lakish. Even though the rule is the only place like Reish Lakish three places, but here because it was different, and he was different because what's it called? Because Rabbi Yochanan himself changed his mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Right,
Not irritate.
so it's not a problem, right? I mean, that which we say we only pass like Rabbi Lakish in 3 places, this isn't one of them, but since Rabbi Yochanan himself agrees with Reish Lakish, then it doesn't count as one thing. You can pass like Reish Lakish without counting as one of your 3, because Rabbi Yochanan agrees to it, so then it's not the opinion of Reish Lakish, it's just a general opinion. We don't have to say in the name of Reish Lakish. And many times the Reish Lakish was right when nobody argued with him. Just when we say that we pass like Reish Lakish in only 3 places, in 3 places we argue in Rabbi Yochanan. But other places, since Rabbi Yochanan here agreed to Reish Lakish in the end, he originally argued, but in the end he agrees, then it doesn't count as one of the 3 that he passed like Reish Lakish. Yeah. Sorry for being so tired.
It's
I'll get more sleep.
You're trying hard.
Yep.